Greetings and salutations. Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss various aspects of the paranormal and paranormal exploration. I am your host, Keith Johnson. With me is my co-host, Sandra Johnson.
Hello out there.
We're also the founders of N.E.A.R, New England Anomalies Research. And I'd like to welcome our studio audience.
Welcome, studio audience.
Yes, welcome. Welcome to you on this balmy summer evening. And also, happy birthday to Bill Cosby. Now, we have a very special guest with us this evening, a return guest who you may recognize as having a lot to do with historic Rocky Point Park in Warwick. Please welcome Mr. Jason Mayoh.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me back.
Oh, it's good to have you back. We're delighted to have you back.
Absolutely.
And recently, Jason has completed an exhibit that took place at the Warwick Art Museum. Now, what can you tell us about that, Jason?
Yeah, right in downtown Apponaug, near the old TAPS offices, the Warwick Museum of Art for the month of June was transformed into a whole Rocky Point exhibit called Long Live Rocky Point Park.
Mm-hmm.
And before you get into the exhibit, for our audience members that have no idea what Rocky Point is, can you just kind of fill them in?
Rocky Point was the amusement park in Rhode Island for over 150 years. It closed down in '95 and sat there for 10 years in a state of decay and disrepair, as I like to say. Mm-hmm. And I, in turn, sparked my imagination to create a series of horror comic books about it.
Oh, okay, right. I just wanted to fill that gap for our audience members in Australia.
Gotcha.
I've never heard of Rocky Point. I mean, we all know about it around here, but
and
there are
of course,
those.
you're an excellent illustrator.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Those who remember the previous show you were on, we showed some of your illustrations. And thanks to you, for about a month or so, many citizens of Warwick and from around the state felt they had gone back in time and could relive some of what was Rocky Point, the magic of Rocky Point.
Yeah, it was very nostalgic.
Yeah, it was
enjoyable.
It was an amazing experience all around. You know, you mentioned the comics. We had all my original art from the comics hanging up, but more importantly, we had some rides from the House of Horrors. That's the park's old dark ride. Mm-hmm. We had a flume log outside. We had a lot of park memorabilia, merchandise, a lot of framed postcards. So yeah, it was kind of a unique summertime experience. And I think it was the perfect summer for it. A lot of flume type weather days we've been having lately, so.
Mm-hmm. I was surprised on how many artifacts actually survived from there. That I mean, considering the ruin and the debris that we've seen and everything.
I know. Well, that's the interesting thing is, after the park closed, a lot of people just kept sneaking back in there, and
of course, yeah,
sort of
taking bits and pieces.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I took a piece of the House of Horrors, which was on display.
Right.
But a lot of people.
Where that came from.
Yeah. A lot of people were coming in after the first day we opened, and they would bring their own stuff. A lot of people brought signs. One old employee donated his work jacket. So it was a great experience, and a lot of Warwick residents spent a lot of time, probably about an hour or so, just looking at all the artifacts ranging back from 150 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know, some of the newspaper flyers that showed a lot of the first attractions at the park.
Right. And what were some of the first attractions?
A couple interesting things that I had never heard of. One was called the Witching Waves. Sounds kind of haunting, but I guess you would, patrons would line up on a dock and then get on some sort of turn of the century boat and try to not get knocked off by the waves, I guess. I don't know.
Huh.
Now, what year was that? What did that
I'd say probably 1920s or so. Mm-hmm. I think the newspaper ad was from 1917.
Yeah.
Your rudimentary flume, huh?
Yeah, pretty
precursor to the flume, yes.
And of course, last time I mentioned one of the first attractions was the caves at Rocky Point. And so we had I think it was a lithograph showing an aerial of the park back in the day, but then it also showed a small drawing of people in turn of the century dress going into this dark, cavernous world. And it's the caves are something that keeps coming back up into the urban myth of Rocky Point.
Oh yeah, that is a large part of it, And I had mentioned previously that how much Rocky Point is included in our history of New England, because back in the famous Lizzie Borden murders of Andrew and Abby Borden, August 4th, 1892, somebody must have been thinking in advance, planning ahead, because the Fall River Police were on their annual outing at Rocky Point Amusement Park here in Warwick, Rhode
I know
Island.
you must have talked about that. I mean, I missed Keith's little talk. I'd had way too many clam cakes.
That's right, yes.
You know, being way too nostalgic and overindulged, but yeah, you must have talked about that.
Yeah, I did mention that. And,
That's right.
Must have been some members of the police force that came home. Did I miss anything today?
Yeah,
the
right.
crime of the century.
That's fascinating. I think we even spoke at the exhibit, you know, did Lizzie Borden ever go to Rocky Point? Did H.P. Lovecraft ever go to Rocky Point?
And
Yeah,
very
probably.
possibly they did. Possibly even Mercy Brown. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, distinct possibility.
There's a news story that I found out about it, and I don't know if you want me to wait till the end or talk about it now, but it involves, again, turn of the century murder at Rocky Point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to show some footage of your exhibit and the one of the special weekends there, the opening weekend. Why don't you, we'll bring that up in a few minutes. Why don't you tell us the story now, then?
Okay. Well, it's a secondhand story because I didn't hear it firsthand, but there's a local author and reporter down in Charlestown. Her name's Kelly Sullivan Pezza, I believe. And she's put out a book called History and Mystery Lore of Rhode Island. But just recently, she gave a talk at the East Greenwich Preservation Society. And what it is, it's a story about a guy who, in the turn of the century, was from Connecticut. He was estranged from his family and divorced from his wife. And he had suffered some sort of blow or accident just prior to that. And, you know, the neighborhood considered him a kind of town crazy. So one weekend, he picked up his daughter without his ex-wife knowing, and he brought her to Rocky Point. And the story goes that they had dinner in the first incarnation of the Shore Dinner Hall, and she thought she was going to go enjoy all the rides. Well, that's not what happened. She was taken up to the wooded area where the caves are and where the Skyliner was eventually built. And the way it was reported was 3 young boys were playing in the caves down below, and they heard a little girl scream, and when they ran up to the top, and the father was standing over her with a bloody rock in his hand. He had murdered her. So what's strange about that story is in that same spot in 1970 or 71, that's where the maintenance man who was attempting to fix the Skyliner.
Oh, yes.
And the ride mysteriously turned on, and he was caught in the gears and crushed.
Right.
In the same very exact spot.
That same exact spot.
That energy there.
Pretty bizarre, yeah.
Yeah, and of course that was graphically illustrated by you in one of your books.
Yes. So
Leaving nothing to the imagination.
Yeah. I have to research that a little bit more, and I'd love to talk to the author who did it. The reason why it's not in any of the Providence Journal files or Warwick Beacon files is she was from Charlestown, and I guess because he was from Connecticut, he was tried there, and so all the records and newspaper articles are located there.
Oh,
so,
okay. That explains
pretty
that.
fascinating, though, and macabre.
Right, exactly.
Well, getting back to the museum and your presentation there, was this all your creation? Was it your idea? Did you approach the city of Warwick, or did someone suggest doing this to you?
Well, I had a smaller show in Pawtucket where it's just original art, and it's sort of always been a long-term goal to somehow acquire these House of Horrors cars. At one point, I wanted them in my backyard, but that wasn't going to happen. So I said, yeah, well, it would be great to sort of involve Warwick and involve a lot of people that have stuff about Rocky Point. So I did approach the Warwick Museum of Art based on a Halloween show, just because the comics have that feel to them.
Right.
But they said, no, it'll be better in the summer when Rocky Point opened, and we'll have clam cakes and chowder, and we'll make a really big event out of it. So I think that was a great choice.
Yeah, I think so too. Went
But
really well.
your question, yeah, was sort of my brainchild, if you will, to sort of put all this stuff together. But I couldn't have done it without the museum's help, and the Warwick Historical Society was involved, and a lot of people coming off the streets also donating their stuff. So
Exactly, exactly. Well, we're going to show some footage here of the actual event, and to see how lively it actually was. I mean, it was crowded. It was a big event, and it really brought back the nostalgia, the feeling that you were going to Rocky Point. And as you said, you did have some of the, at least the seats there, and you sit in them and you just feel like you're going to start going. So thanks to you for bringing that back.
Oh, thank you guys for being involved with it.
It was fun.
Let's bring up that footage, if we may, and relive.
My name is John Austin. I'm part of a paranormal team called Ghost. I'm Jamie Rogers. I'm also part of the group for Ghost. John Finnegan, part of the team, Ghost. Out of Warwick, Rhode Island, our home base.
Ghost Hunter Central.
Here we are at the Rocky Point commemorative celebration, hosted by Jason Mayoh. And here we have the werewolf car from the House of Horrors. This is actually from Werewolf of London, the movie Werewolf of London. See the nice car? Anybody want to get in it? Guys, get in it.
I'm meeting it, or
Here we go.
Ghost.
Put your hands up. I am scared only.
Bad memories, doesn't it?
It's reliving your youth, right? Reliving your childhood.
Oh, here it is.
You're just going to close your eyes and picture yourself going through the tunnel, the cavernous tunnels. Tick, 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 tick. Smell of the oil, the grease.
It's a lot darker.
Oh, this definitely brings back memories.
35?
Let's get a shot of the sign here, House of Horrors.
Yeah. Did you get it? It's up in Connecticut? Yeah.
Oh, how are you?
Someone I work with.
You know how that girl was talking really low? You know, the guest. And she was talking very quiet. And everyone had to keep telling her to talk louder. Well, her microphone gave
Hello.
Hi.
The Music Express used to be.
Sam, how are
They
you?
took the Music Express and moved it.
Blowing away the wind.
Neat.
Sure.
Nice to meet you.
Very
Dude,
beautiful.
what was that? My famous line, well, my second famous line.
Restrooms had side rooms that
My first famous line, you know, obviously, do run, but
so they could connect that.
my name is Matt. I came here to see all the Rocky Point artifacts and memorabilia, and I had a great time. I think it was great to see everybody, and I got to see Brian Anwar from Ghost Hunters. Now he's doing his own thing. I think it was great, and it was a fun time.
Here we have our old friend Miguel.
Hello,
How are you doing, Miguel?
doing very good.
Hold up your sign. What have you got there?
Oh yeah, that little piece of Rocky Point, and very fond memories of Rocky Point. But I got to tell you, that haunted house, I was frightened to death of that Viking on top of there. scared me to death. Took years before I went in there.
So that traumatized you, huh?
Traumatized me. But then when I went in, I was a little disappointed because I thought the Viking was scarier than the inside. But still, I love Rocky Point. Love the haunted house ride. That was one of my favorite things to go to there. Another thing I like to do at Rocky Point was go on the flume. That was another one of my favorite rides. You know, going down that hill, you get soaking wet, coming all the way back up. You go around a second time, get wet again, then you come out, you soak and complain about it, but you had a great time.
The question is, did you ever go on the haunted car number 13 in the flume ride?
No, I never did go on haunted car number 13. Matter of fact, I did not know anything about that. Matter of fact, I didn't know about the story of the boy who found saw the monkeys after he jumped off the Skyliner. So that was interesting to read through the work of Jason Mayoh. That was an excellent comic book he did, and great story. So I learned a little bit. What's great about the comic books and the things here at the museum is I've learned a lot about Rocky Point I didn't know about. That makes it even more interesting, makes me miss it that much more.
Thank you very much, Miguel.
My pleasure.
All you can eat. Children, only 80 cents.
Organizer and founder of the feast, so to speak.
Pressure.
Are you hungry, Sandra?
Not within that, I'm not. Looks like doggy do.
The monkey skeleton crashing through the roof in a classroom.
think of the exhibit, Mr. Giorgi?
Oh, it looks great. I mean, it's just terrific. I always enjoyed Rocky Point when it was open, and I've noticed even they've got some hurricane pictures here too, which are interesting to look at.
What do you remember about that?
Well, I was not in Rhode Island during either hurricane. I didn't arrive in Rhode Island until 1968. So I missed the 38 hurricane because I wasn't born. I missed the 54 hurricane because I was still a kid. But I've seen the pictures, and it looks like it was pretty well devastated. But I certainly came back. But this is, anyone who loves nostalgia will really enjoy this exhibit.
Thank you, Mr. Giorgi. So, Jason, what has the exhibit been like for you?
Oh, it's been just amazing. The first day that we put it up, we put the big gates up, and went home at night, and I couldn't stop thinking about Rocky Point, and just wanted to get here the next day. It was like my own little version of trying to open Rocky Point back up again. And the response has been great. People have been really enjoying it.
I see you have a lot of your own exhibits up here too.
A lot of original artwork from all the comics. Then I've been collecting for years too. Postcards, cups, what else? Prints, photos, posters. A piece of the House of Horrors Castle Terror wall that I salvaged from the ruins of Rocky Point.
You salvaged it yourself?
I did. 2007, when I went in there, I was able to salvage that piece of the wall.
What would you like to see for the future of Rocky Point?
I would love to see the land open up once again, whether it's a state park, we could have events there, but something that will allow the people to return there again and enjoy themselves and have a good time just like they used to.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Mayoh, the founder of the feast, so to speak.
Thanks,
Well, that was our footage. So it was an exciting time and an exciting day. I love the illustrations on those cars, because they are from classic movies. You've got Werewolf of London, Henry Hull as the cursed lycanthrope from 1935, Werewolf of London, and the werewolf car. And of course, Son of Frankenstein, Boris Karloff recreating his role as the immortal monster in 1939. And who can forget David Prowse as Darth Vader, beginning in 1977 with the Star Wars movies. And
Good call, good call. And that Darth Vader car was actually, all the cars are, the City of Warwick has acquired them.
So they own them.
The Darth Vader car, when we brought it into the museum, it was vandalized. It had spray paint gray all over it. And,
that's too bad.
I had talked to the mayor about trying to refurbish it. He said, go ahead, try it. And someone brought in nail polish remover, and I took a few hours of scrubbing it down, and Darth emerged once again.
Excellent.
The Force was with me that day.
You hear that, David Prowse? You have him to thank for this. And James Earl Jones.
Well, speaking of, some of the artifacts that were there at the museum, the last time we had you on the show, we talked a lot about hauntings surrounding a lot of the things that that were there at the museum. Now, these things were there for a month or almost a month. Did anyone experience anything at the museum?
Not too unusual. I know the museum director, Patty Martucci, she doesn't like things that go bump in the night, so I think she would have told me if anything was...
Right, but nobody stayed there overnight to find out, right?
That's true, that's true. And no accidents. No one was scalped while sitting.
No.
I'm relieved to hear that.
Yeah. I was worried that we had the, I don't know if you saw it in the footage, but we had the Rocky Point gate that was from a play in Providence called Out to Rocky Point by the Daydream Theater Company. And
never heard of that.
That was a little unstable at times, so I was always worried it's going to topple down.
At one point.
It all went well.
Yeah. But you had on the flume you had car number 9 instead of car number 13. But you
Yes.
do have a photograph and footage of car number 13 from when you explored there. It's in the Shore Dinner Hall for
That's
some
true.
reason.
It's still there, and after the museum had such a great reception, I'm in the process of writing a letter to the mayor about proposing a maybe 2 to 3 day excavation of whatever's left inside.
Right.
So that could be salvaged, hopefully, someday.
Oh, great. Briefly, tell us the story about Michael Jackson's almost connection with Rocky Point.
Okay, yeah. Former city councilman Carlo Pizzatoro, when the park was closing, had a good idea. I think it's a pretty genius idea to try to contact Michael Jackson because he had an interest in amusement parks. Contacted him through the Neverland Ranch, sent him a letter, and received a letter back, Neverland Stationery, saying thank you, but Michael Jackson isn't interested at this time. So we tried to get that as an artifact, but I don't think he knows where it is these days.
So almost owned by Michael Jackson.
It would have been interesting to see what he would have done with Kittyland.
That would have been interesting.
Just within a few seconds, can you tell us about your plans for your exploration of the cave?
Well,
caves.
I'm hoping that we can kind of, through the city of Warwick, arrange some sort of investigation of the caves or certain areas. So that's another thing in the works.
Okay.
Of course,
you will
guys-
include us.
Of course.
Okay.
Excellent, excellent. Well, of course, we didn't get my talk on film that I gave, but I like to say what I said then. I think Jason has really done more than preserve the history of Rocky Point. I think he showed us the spirit. You rekindled the spirit that was and still is Rocky Point, and
Absolutely.
give you a hand for that. Excellent, my friend. All right.
Excellent job, Jason.
Awesome.
Long live Rocky Point Park.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Should we go out with a song?
No,
Not
you
this
got
time.
that last time.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for being our wonderful guest,
Thank you
Jason.
for having me.
Come back again.
I will.
We'll talk about the caves next time.
Absolutely.
Good night, everybody.
all.
God bless.